Hello everyone, this is Steve from Steve's Archery Arrows, and we get a lot of phone calls asking us our building procedures, so I thought I'd show a little bit of what we do. Currently we have a arrow on a spline machine, and I will go ahead and spin it and you will actually see the stiff part of the shaft as we spin it. It'd be right there. Now I've also modified this spline tester with some precision bearings, so once you get it on the stiff side, see if I can get a little closer for you, you can actually see it roll right off the stiff side of the shaft. And then once we find the stiff part of the shaft, then we indicate it with a gray marker. Okay, our next step here is cutting the shafts. We use a Easton saw cutter, and we are currently going to cut this one at 28.5 inches, and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, our next step after finishing cutting our shafts is we are going to roughen up the inside of our carbon shaft for inserts on the insert side, and we do this with a drill, and I'd like to show you, but got the camera in my hand and I'll finish up to 12 and I'll be right. Okay, our next step after we finished up roughing up the inside of our shafts is actually squaring, and we use a fire knock squaring tool, and I'm actually running it manually right now just for demonstrations. I usually do it with a power drill, but we square both ends of the carbon shaft, and then we'll move on to our next. And I usually just put them in a nice little bag here, and I have some cleaning solvent, and we just set them right in there and get rid of all the contaminants, the oil, and getting them ready to prep to put into. Okay, we've removed the inserts. Just going to let them sit out and air dry, and then we actually do the same thing to our carbon shafts. Is we dip them into our cleaning solvent, and we actually take a Q-tip and we actually swab out the inside of it until we remove all the carbon, and then we set the carbon shafts up and also let those dry and get them ready to epoxy the inserts in. Okay, now we're mixing our two-part epoxy up here for the inserts, and we go ahead and we put some two-part epoxy right on the end of the insert, and then we take our arrow shaft. As we are inserting it, we also spin it, and then we just lay it right down on the tin foil until it's seated. Wipe off the excess epoxy, and then we also like to set the shaft upright until the epoxy has set up. Okay, we're going to get ready for our vanes. This customer, currently we are going to use the Flex Fletch, the 360 in flow yellow and white, and I installed them in a jig with their foot up, and we are going to prime the bottom of the feet for application for the glue, and then we'll let that sit, let it dry. And this is the current, what we're going to be using is the fire knock jig. There's a couple of them set up for the project. We are going to be fletching Easton flatliners, and we are going to put a 1 degree offset on them. Okay, we currently got some vanes all cleaned up. We've also cleaned up prepped our shafts, and here we got one in the jig, and I went ahead and put some glue on our foot of our vane, and here's our glue applicator, And I'm going to go ahead and install this vanes, and we'll show you the finished product here in a little bit. Okay, now back to the squaring tool, Fire Knock squaring tool. And our last procedure here is that we actually clean up the inserts of any high spots. Okay, here's some finished shafts, Easton Flatliners, DOA. As you can see where the index mark is, where the stiff spine of the shaft is where we installed our cock vane. And they are set at 1 degree offset. Let me turn this here for you can take a look. Okay, and now we're going to head off to shipping. Okay, here's the finished product heading out to the customer. Just wanted to show you the box that you guys would receive it in.